Hey, thanks so much for watching the Recovery Vow podcast today. I have Matt and Christina here from Valor and Vows. We connected through the family here at EXO Marriage, and that's where we're recording at this week is in Southlake at the EXO headquarters. But I want you just to sit back and listen to the ministry and the story that they're doing through Valor and Vows. But if you're not following them, you can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube, and you can email them at valorandvows@gmail.com. Did I say that correctly?
Well, you did.
I said it correctly. And if you want to connect with us, you can email me at recoveryvow@gmail.com. Check me out on all of the social media platforms. And you can also subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. That's where you can help us the most. Subscribe. And if you've been called to give, just remember we are a nonprofit. I would love for you to donate and become a partner of what we're doing here. All of the proceeds that come in go right back into this organization. We build out more classes, more workshops, and everything for free so that we can find people that need addiction or need recovery from different types of addictions, and we can find them right where they are. So in this episode, you're going to hear Matt and Christina talk a lot about their marriage, the ministry they're serving with, military, and how they're helping those spouses, and just what God has done through them in their ministry. So thanks for joining us. I hope you'll enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Recovery Vow podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. All right, I got Matt and Christina with me today. Am I saying this right? Valor and Vows.
That is correct.
Tell me where that name come from.
Well, really, it came because, what is biblical valor? It's having that courage to, stand before God and honor the covenant that you have for him. So it's that same principle in our marriage and in the military. We just have been, around this journey for so long. And when we looked at the scope of, our journey and then the journey of our people and where, God was taking us in this ministry, I just said, oh my gosh, I came to him and I said, what about Valor and Vows? And he's like, I love it. Do it.
B&B. That was it. All right. So what is Valor and Vows? What are you guys doing? If you wanted the person that's in our audience listening today to know what your elevator speech is or what your pitch is, tell us. And don't be so brief like that, but just tell us what Valor and Vows is. What are you guys trying to reach with your?
We just, as a military chaplain, and we, like she said, we've been serving in the military for years now. We've noticed a tremendous gap in military marriages when it comes to faith and the mission, and how do you combine those two, or how do you thrive through those two things? We know there's an increased rate of divorce and issues within military marriages. So how do we try to combat that? Well, that was our main focus, was to take the experience that we've had, the things I've worked with couples on in the military as a chaplain, to say, hey, here's some biblical principles, some foundations that we can utilize or you can utilize. We can come alongside each other and build healthy, strong marriages, regardless of what the mission set is, because the stigma in the military has always been, hey, it's tough to have a good, thriving relationship because you're gone a lot, or, mission dictates over family at times, and deployments, all these different things are thrown at us, and we're just told, well, that's just how it is. It's going to be tough. Well, they can be tough, but you can also thrive through those things. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? So that was kind of our basis for writing Valor and Vows and putting together a platform to be able to teach couples and to say, hey, here are the principles you can utilize to keep your priorities straight, to where you don't fall into some of those traps, that a lot of people fall into when it comes to military marriages.
So you're just trying to help. Okay. Use me as an example. Me and my wife, Kristen, I'm a soldier in the military. We're having XYZ issue. Does the military place us in direct contact with you, or how does a person that's in service find you, and then how do y'all walk with them through whatever their issue is?
For us, we do a lot of intentional engagement. So I kind of look at it like this. If you're maybe a pastor on the outside, not within the military, typically, not saying you don't do outreach, but typically folks are coming to you for spiritual care. They're coming to you to learn. They're coming to you for a reason. They're seeking out, the church and the word. Our job more so is to go into the units, go into the lives of these folks, whether they're looking for it or not, and just be that beacon of some light to them, be that, person of faith to them, bring them to some type of spiritual fitness for their life. So to me, it's engaging with your folks, building those relationships, building that trust factor with your folks, and, showing them, whether it be through words or actions, the importance of a strong spiritual foundation. Whether you've ever thought about that in your life, marriage or not, here's some principles, here's some things that you really need to consider if you want your marriage and your relationship and your life to get on track. And so it's us seeking those folks. Now, yeah, we have people come to us. If we have a couple who's, in a situation where they want to talk to somebody or need to talk to somebody, the military is really good about, promoting those resources, whether it be the chaplain corps, to come to see us, or whether it be a mental health outlet, or, what's another one? Good family advocacy. So there's different branches of help sources out there that our folks are well aware of. It's just what sets us apart as military chaplains is we have that 100% confidentiality piece, and that is bound by law. So that's, when I say 100%, I mean 100%. There's nothing that you and your spouse could come and talk to the chaplain about that chaplain is going to divulge any of that information.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that gives them that safe outlet, to come and talk and to get the help they need. If we don't have the solution, we're going to walk with that couple to find that solution. So,
and you said that you guys are in the mecca of military here in Texas. Currently, we're at the EXO Studios in Southlake, Texas. Where are you guys at? Where is this base at you're talking about?
So right now we're in San Antonio, so Lackland Air Force Base. I've had the amazing privilege of working with our military training instructors. So myself and my partner, our job is to take care of the instructors who train all of our new Air Force recruits, so basic military training. That's where I work, and I take care of those instructors, as I mentioned, that work the long hours. Right now, I think they work 6 days, 10-hour shifts. So you're 60 hours right there. You're going. Then trying to take care of your family. Then trying to do professional development. Go to your kids' ball games. Your only day off, you're going to church if you choose to do so. Or so you can imagine the tough environment and the amount of stress that those guys go through. So that's who have been taken care of for the last 3 years. Those guys and their families, about 650 or so of them. You add their families in there, you're looking, you're up a couple thousand or more folks that you take care of. So pretty large scope there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you say that you've been doing this for 3 years, you've done Valor and Vows for 3 years, or been a chaplain in the military for 3 years?
Been at Lackland at this assignment for 3 years. I've been a chaplain since 2013. Valor and Vows,
this is our first year.
Yeah, first year doing Valor and Vows. So we've kind of compiled that information and those experiences, and that's how we kind of had on our heart to write the book.
Well, in the years that we've been doing ministry within the chaplain corps and in the church, because we served in the church prior to him commissioning back into the military. He was enlisted prior. While there were so many amazing resources out there for couples, what we kept hearing our couples tell us is, well, it doesn't really speak to us. We're in the military, so we speak a completely different language. And while the concepts and the principles might be nice, how do you have intimacy when you guys are geographically separated? How does that work? That doesn't apply to us. So automatically they were just kind of tuning off at that. They just thought it's just not for them, and that they just didn't have hope.
Did you try to answer that question?
And so what Matt and I did is we birthed Valor and Vows because of it. We sat there and said, okay, you know what? You're right. It is different. We do speak a different language, but the principles that are in the Word of God when it comes to marriage and family are very, very similar to our military culture. So what the Lord had given us through our marriage almost falling apart, seeing how God rebuilt it and the miracle that He did in our lives. And we said, well, if He can do that for us, how many more people can He do that to? or how to do that for. And it was one marriage retreat that we were doing specifically. And I had a spouse come to me, and she was a commander. And she said, well, this is all fine and great, but I'm a commander. I'm a commander over an entire squadron. And when I get home, I'm the boss. And I said, I am so glad that you said that to me. That is just amazing. I said, let's talk about chain of command. I said, what does your chain of command structure look like? And she says, well, I'm the squadron commander. I said, okay, perfect. Who do you report to? And she said, oh, okay, well, I report to the group commander. It's like, okay. And then go from there and tell me, how far up the chain do you go? And she goes, well, I go all the way up to the commander in chief. And I said, okay, are any of those roles down the line of chain of command inferior to the other? And she said, absolutely not. I said, okay, in the military, if any of those cogs in the wheel get misaligned, if chain of command is not properly abided by, what happens? And she's like, well, we have mission failure, and that's not acceptable. And I'm like, absolutely. Welcome to Ephesians 5. And her eyes lit up like saucers. She said, what do you mean? I said, God has given us this perfect structure for how he has designed our marriage and our family. Mm-hmm. But there has to be someone who can help cast that vision. And then there has to be someone who can come alongside and help execute that vision. That's the husband and the wife. So why is it that you feel that if you give up that position, that you're losing something? And she said, well, I guess I really never thought of it that way, but maybe I'm not. I said, no, you're actually gaining so much more. And that was really the ticket. When I came home to him and said, you won't believe this experience I had when we had separated the women and the men, and this was our conversation. I was like, what if we wrote a book like this? What if we talked about military imagery and relating it back to God's perfect design for marriage? And that's really how it was born.
So when you are saying that, was she trying to bring the way that the military lays out chain of command to the home? Like, for example, it's God, then your spouse, then your kids. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the chain of command I'm thinking you're talking about at home.
Right.
Was she saying when I get home, like she was thinking that she's in command and then it's husband and kids? Okay.
Yep.
So she was taking that thinking home with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And we see that a lot.
Well, and that's, it doesn't sound as glamorous when I put it this way, but honestly, what we see the biggest issue is it's just a misalignment of priorities with our couples, with our families. It's as simple as that a lot of times. 95% of the counselings that I do with couples or an individual who's struggling, in a relationship, it's just based off of a misalignment. You've got that structure you just mentioned out of whack, and we get to where God is on that list, and it usually comes in around 6th or 7th,
It should be first.
8, So, and then that's how we start working on things. That's how we try to get those priorities realigned, because if you got that out of whack, that one element out of whack, everything's going to be out, and that's causing the division, that's causing the separation, that's causing the anxiety in the marriage and the distance, and which creates all these other problems that start filtering in.
When you guys are working with these men and women at this base specifically, tell me like the first top, or not the first 3, but the top 3 or top 5 things that you see are repetitive in the generation that you're working with. And is there just a generation you're working with that are just like in their 20s and married in military, 30s married in military, or 20s and 30s married in military? So 3 common things that you see over and over again. And then is there certain generations that you're working with specifically?
So our age groups are so vast.
They are.
That's good.
So vast. I mean, we have babies like 18, fresh out of basic training, that just get married. And then we have couples who are, in their sometimes mid 40s, upwards of high 50s, that are getting ready to transition out of the military. And they're having significant problems because they don't know how to become civilian again.
That sounds really fun and easy
Yeah.
for folks, but that's very difficult.
Yes.
You've been 20 plus years doing this thing we all do, and you're calling it quits. Everybody in the family starts to get some anxiety, some stress, you know, and now some of them have a solid plan, have had a plan, and they transition fairly easy. But a lot of times for the kids, for the spouse, and for the member, depending on their level of, a lot of times their level of leadership maybe, or status within in the military and in a unit, they're used to taking care of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're taking care of essentially maybe nothing. And here you are twiddling your thumbs after a few weeks, like, what in the world am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, and start losing that identity.
That's good to hear that you're helping, because you're working with a large audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come back. Is there 3 or 4 things that couples that you see them tend to bring to you that they're dealing with?
Yeah.
Sex.
Yeah. Sex,
Money,
communication. Another one is, and here's kind of where I want to go to tie into the sex piece, would be emotional support.
Yeah.
Emotional connection.
Yeah.
With your spouse.
Yeah.
Maintaining that.
Mm-hmm.
There's where the problems come in a lot of times with our folks. We can talk more about that if you want.
Talk about it as much as you want.
You know,
Here's the thing. As you're talking about these kind of things, when my audience is listening to me talk, they're hearing me talk about recovery. And sometimes people think it's just drug, alcohol, substance process recovery. But like we were talking about in the green room, there's different kinds of recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
for sure.
We've had people come on and they're talking about recovery from the loss of a child, or recovery from church hurt. Yeah, that's a different kind of recovery. So any kind of recovery stories come through what you guys are doing?
Oh my gosh. I mean, on the broader spectrum, we see a lot of, and I don't even know how to phrase it appropriately, but we see a lot of people who are addicted to the status, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, when you are at a certain place in your military career, you are elevated, you are highly respected. There is a level of privilege that come for some. And how do you transition your identity into what we know should be in Christ when your identity for 35 years has been in your status? That's been a really big one. And then that snowballs into other things, because then they're going to coping mechanisms to deal with all that other stuff. Yep. It's funny. I was talking to a spouse the other day, and she's like, well, the military ruined my marriage. And that broke my heart, because this has been, you know, if you look at our full time, it's been almost 25 years, and it's been the best adventure I've ever been on. And I said, well, can we take that back a second, and can I try to give you maybe a different perspective? Maybe it's not the military that ruined your marriage. Maybe it's what was brought into it. Those things that were not dealt with prior to coming in. And now that you're in this environment where you have high work tempo, geographical separation, all these things, now that's just gasoline on an already stoked fire. And when I was able to talk to her about that and kind of go backwards and break all those things down, then she realized that, okay, there's just heart work that needs to be done. And once that heart work is done, now I'm able to thrive in the setting that God has placed me in.
That's good.
You know, but that's one that I've seen most recently, is just that status. But you've seen so many.
Yeah. Like, I think recovery stories, you know, come to mind. One comes to mind, we were talking about earlier with an old partner I had, where we had to literally keep this person alive from a drug overdose.
Yeah.
We got a call one day. We typically never go to someone's house. That's just the only place we can respond to, you know, as a chaplain, to go to somebody's home. So we got the call to do so, and I said, I'll go if the first sergeant goes with us. Mm-hmm. So, you know, first sergeant agrees to go with us. So we go out to this individual's home, and he had been separated from the wife, going through an infidelity circumstance with the spouse, separated, just, you know, the whole nine. And what we didn't know was, before we got there, he had taken a bottle of pills and washed it down with probably 8 to 10 ounces of straight whiskey, you know. And man, it took a little, when we first got there, you look normal, like everything was all right. And then just quickly fading, you know, and all of a sudden he just passes out and we're sitting there talking to him. So my partner and I have to keep him alive. He's throwing up. We have to keep his airways open and all these things until, you know, paramedics can get there, essentially, you know, saving his life, if I guess, in a sense there. But later to see him from a place of being angry at us for trying to help him.
Yeah.
And in the position he was in, to allowing us to come in and work through that situation with him, talk to him, be a brother, you know, brother in arms to him, but also be a brother in Christ here, and put ourselves in on the level with him and get him the help he needed, you know, spiritual help, you know, help with the addiction, help with recovering through, you know, the situation with his spouse, and seeing him overcome that and later say thank you for saving my life and coming in and stepping in when I wanted you to get the heck out of my house.
Yeah.
You know, so we've seen some of those type of circumstances, but a lot of healed marriages too. You know, you hear about, well, military's divorce rate's high. All you hear about's the bad. There's a lot of good, a lot of good, you know, so,
give me a stat. If I had a computer in here, I'd want to look, or I'll ask Google, but give me a stat of, how many people that are getting married or staying married.
Military, what?
Right now it's
50%.
about 50-50. Yeah. The 50% that are coming in, you know, there's a 50% chance that they'll be divorced or that they'll struggle with some type of addiction. Yeah. That's kind of where it was, I think, last year. Yeah. But I know the cost was like,
the cost is tremendous.
Oh my gosh.
The amount of money spent on divorces in the military is
expensive.
It was $15,000, I think, I can't remember if it was per couple or per individual, but it was outrageous. So it's a lot of, you know, what we're seeing is again, that financial struggle and strain that comes from these things that people think are going to make their lives better because they just want to be happy. But what's happening in all reality is it's not making you happy.
My thing with this is we're doing a terrible job of preparing people for marriage.
Yes.
You know, I guess I see it within the military context way more than maybe you would on, you know, as on outside in a pastorship role. But on the inside, our folks in the military get married so often just because there was a emotional connection or a physical connection or this person likes the things I like, or we're going to the same place, you name it, you know, and that creates that a bond, if you will, and they just get married with no plan, no spiritual foundation, no basis of God's word, just let's wing it. And
you think they get married because in their mind, okay, I'm about to go sign up to be in the military for 2 years, 4 years, whatever. I need to hurry get a wife and a kid. So if something happens to me, are they thinking about what the possibility of things that could happen to them makes them want to act quicker in their mind?
I don't think so, as much as, honestly, is very financially beneficial, for one.
For those that are coming in.
Yes. To do so.
For those that are already in, what we see is a lot of the infatuation that happens. We met downrange and we had this really great connection and there was passion and chemistry and then we just got married.
And I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist and that's not great, but, how are you starting out that?
Yeah.
If you start a relationship right, the chances of it going well are much more increased. If you don't start it with God's word, you don't start it on that type of foundation, man, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've heard, some of the podcasts that are done here. One of them is with Brent Evans, the Real Thing podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those young adults talk about, it wasn't confusing to me when I was dating, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. But it's confusing now. Like they go from the season of, we just met, maybe with downwind or downrange or whatever, but we're going to hang out before we're considered talking. We're going to talk before we're considered a couple. And before we're considered a couple, let's just throw another 6 months in there, where if I date or if I went on a date a couple of times, if I paid for your food, we're in a relationship.
Oh yeah. There was no DTR.
Yeah.
We've been together for 23 years. I didn't even know what that meant. We had a completely different mindset. Than like you said, than there is now.
But their mindsets of these people that aren't in the military, but then yet the people that are in the military, they're hurrying up doing it for what reason? What is the difference in those two, but they're the same age? I wonder if that's just the question that comes.
Well, I mean, in our world, now you've taken a little piece of kindling, and then when you do what you just said, and then you go and get married, and then you now are in the military, now you have a bonfire. Because they don't have any clue what military life is like. What we've been trying to do through Valor and Vows is with the new spouses that are coming in, I sit them down and share with them, like we talk about the oath of office, like that oath of office that your husband or wife is taking. You may not stand up there. You may not raise your hand. You may not say those words, but you are saying those words.
Mm-hmm.
You are taking that oath of office with them. You are agreeing to put service before self. Whether you like it or not, that is how it is. So there does need to be a cognizance of, this ministry life as a calling, not as a vocation. And when you can really approach it that way, then you are setting yourself up to have the success and thrive in the environment that we've loved all these years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I tell couples that I work with, especially the supporting spouse, is just because your spouse got sober doesn't mean they're sober alone. You're now in recovery with them. And so you have to think that way. And you can make it meaningful and life building and life changing. It doesn't have to be, let them carry the burden of all the bad things they've done. You just need to walk with them through the things they need to fix. That's the whole reason that I wrote Marriage After Addiction, is because it gives both the husband and the wife something to do and to be able to hold themselves and each other accountable, even in your selfishness.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Well, it's and what I love about that is, it's the same sentence. We are on the same team. You are now putting on the jersey of whatever military branch of service you have decided to walk into. So y'all are wearing that jersey together. And when you can approach that journey from that lens, then it begins to make the difference. And then what we try to do is, okay, now let's take that part out of the equation and let's get down to the real root of what's going on in your marriage. He didn't just, and we had this situation happen. That's why I'm bringing it up. He didn't just start looking at pornography because it was just something fun to do. There's something a lot deeper. There was a layer that was there, or vice versa, because we have it with females too. There's layers that are there. What's going on underneath that surface that we can really dive down to? And a lot of times it's what he said, emotional intimacy. I was missing that emotional intimacy in my marriage. Okay, now let's figure out how to build that back. Let's set those parameters. Let's set those boundaries. Let's have that accountability, because you can work through this. So we've seen that quite a bit as well.
For sure.
When you bring a couple in, are you working with them through like a program or a process that you guys have created? Or are you going through the book with them, Valor and Vows? And then how much time are they spending with you?
Well, we are part of the Marriage Institute here at XO.
Okay.
And so we do intensive coaching with them. We do tailor it to whatever time they can afford. Yeah. Sometimes they can't afford 8 hours, and that's perfectly fine. We want to make it very palatable for them. So we work alongside our curriculum in addition to the resources that we have there. And then, of course, he's got the covering of being the chaplain. So there's the support that he can give them. But typically it is more intensive coaching up front. And then we set those appointments
or we can
that are a lot shorter.
We can try to get them into a retreat after that,
Yeah.
or something where we can continue to strengthen what we're working at and strengthen that connection. So that's one thing about the book that, we really wanted to make sure we did, was create a way that it could be taught, not just read. It's an easy read, but it's meant to be that way because you can turn around, take that book and do a men's group with it, or a ladies group with it, or a couples group with it, or we can come teach a retreat about it. That's what we wanted from it, was, to be well-rounded that way, to where you could just pick it up and read it on a small trip on your own, or say, hey, let's get the men together at the church and let's spend 10 weeks going through this, whatever the case may be, and work on those individual pieces, of strengthening the relationship. So, we try to do that with our couples as well, and usually, well, not usually, all the time, there's somewhere within that book that they have a struggle.
Yeah.
So we can pick out that chapter, we can pick out that piece and go over that with them and spend a couple hours on that, or, really dive into communication, or dive into, top cover, intimacy.
Yeah.
And
finances, all the things. Mm-hmm. But, for us too, it's being able to utilize it as an opportunity to train other people and equip other people to be able to take it to wherever they are. Many hands make light work. We do what we do and we love it. But we also want others to come alongside us and be able to say, hey, we'll facilitate. We can teach that. Yeah. We can bring it into the church. The veterans population that's in the church now is vast. It's vast.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of addiction with the veterans.
25% of veterans have PTSD, diagnosed PTSD.
Right out of
the gate.
Retirement?
Right.
As soon as they get
25%, so I think, a big pitch for me would be as a chaplain, I see it on the inside when I see these guys get out, or even if they're stationed, close to your church maybe, and, you have a lot of veterans in there. Most churches do something for the veterans, some do more than others, but not many have like a dedicated platform for it, or a military ministry, so to speak, with somebody who understands that world and can talk their language a little bit. And you say, well, man, that's hard to find. It can be, I get that. But what we've tried to do through the book as well is maybe give churches a platform to use with that, an easy one to say, hey, we can run this through our veterans and our military folks. We can offer it, as a teaching platform for them, and because every church has a veteran. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go any church and have them raise their hands, there's going to be veterans in that church, and not to call churches out, but hey, what are you doing for them? I know you love them, because every church you go to, man.
Oh, they love the military.
Love the military. Yeah.
So are you saying that churches can reach out to you guys direct and say, okay, if we want to try Valor and Vows, or we want to hear what Valor and Vows offers or does, would be accomplished, you're saying that you could make this a ministry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure. You could turn around, take that book material and the teaching that we have coming with it, to plug right in, and like I said, it's like I said, it's difficult sometimes to find the right person within your church that can say, yeah, I'll take the charge on this ministry, and they may know a lot about the military, they may not. So this is a platform that, somebody could pick up that's never been in uniform before and run it. Or you might have an individual in there that's a 30-year veteran that can pick it up and run it, and really connect those folks. You don't want to lose those folks. Yeah. They're, not because I am in the military, but we owe those veterans that active service. We owe them to take care of them in a different way, because they have lived a different life. Mm-hmm. It is a different life. And, I'm not saying nobody takes care of us at all. Many people do. People love what we're doing, and our folks do sacrifice, and I think it's important for them to understand and know that they're loved, taken care of, and at least somebody's trying, to say, hey, we understand the hurt out there. We know that 25% of you have the PTSD. We know that you've been away from your families for, and sacrificed on our behalf. And, how do we help you? Well, here's what we're going to do, and so I'd like to see that more and more. I think that would start maybe cutting into the suicide rate. Maybe it'll cut into the divorce rate. I know those things will start to happen if there's more of a dedicated presence for those veterans and folks.
And if a pastor or someone that leads a church is listening to this episode, what would be something they would need to have to start that outside of knowing who you guys are, knowing about the book Valor and Vows? Let's say they had 20 people that were in their church that were ex-military or still in military, and they wanted to do this. Are you saying do this through starting a small group?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would
Or
be
a life group or something like that?
Yeah, because and what we hear so much from men and women that we know that have retired, even recently, they feel a loss of community. The world that we are living in right now in the military, for me, it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. My ride or die sisters in arms, have been with me for, 25 years. Those are the girls that took care of my son when I was sick and he was gone. Mm-hmm. When you leave that environment, you do, in some senses, leave that community. That's where the isolation comes in. That's where we see a lot of the issues happen. And when you are able to put them into a small group or a life group, you're rebuilding that community. They're able to, again, share stories, speak the language, and that helps them through their recovery. And it also helps them,
If it were me and I was speaking to a pastor out there that's like, hey, how do I get this off the ground? From me as a military chaplain doing this all the time, man, hold a little event. Just hold a little event. Hold a dinner. Hold some type of gathering at the church in support of those folks. Promote it to them. Say, hey, we want
like an interest meeting.
Yeah, and just have folks come in, feed them. Take care of them. Have somebody, present maybe, hey, here's our vision here. Here's what we'd like to do, going forward, because we want to invest in this piece of the church.
Yeah,
which is
when you feed people, they'll show up.
They show
They
up.
do show up.
And we're pretty good at that these days. We feed our folks, so they will show up for that.
They love our food trucks.
Yeah, food trucks great. But what it shows them is, hey, all right, somebody cares here. Somebody's trying. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to hear what they have to say.
Yeah,
and through that, you may have somebody, hey, I want to help. Hey, here's my experience. I was 22 years in the Air Force, and I did this, and this. I'd love to help out, and you can build that community a little bit more that way and see what type of interest you have, and if there's a good vested interest there and folks are gravitating toward it, run that platform and grow that ministry. And then you guys can end up reaching out to other churches and other places and connecting those veterans, not only in the church organizations, but also throughout your community in those faith or, military organizations.
Do you think, I'm a nonprofit, okay? And all I want to do as a nonprofit, I want to raise money. And that's a hard question to ask is, can you donate some money? I also want to use that money to continue to build on what I'm doing here with Recovery Vow. But like certain recovery centers that are nonprofit or are not funded by the government, maybe an organization like yours, I would love to partner with you guys and give you another resource to go along with your resource so they have just more tools in their toolbox. I say that all the time. But just so they have more action steps. This book is written as a workbook. So at the end, I think I sent you guys a copy. So you saw at the end of the chapter, you answer questions as the husband, as the wife, the person in recovery, the person that's supportive. But, if I can help give you some power as you're continuing to build this thing out, I would love to make sure you guys have copies of the book to go along with yours.
Yeah.
So that, we're doing this together. This is not to come along. Not to go in front of. This is to come alongside of you and behind you and just help push you, help you as much as possible.
We're all for just helping our folks out here. We love to come alongside folks that have a like-minded interest in trying to support. This is a very hard-hitting, piece of the pie, in my opinion. not many people get after that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are scared to get after that, or they'll mention it, but it's like, I don't know about writing a book on it.
Well, and it's a
you've done
that, like, you know, like you said, addiction and recovery is just like the big names, right? And it's not. It's very, very, very broad. And if you really take an introspective look and see, like, well, maybe there are some things that I need to recover from.
Yeah.
You know, and
I'll throw one at you: anger.
100%.
Anger, PTSD.
Yeah.
You got to recover from those feelings. Now, this isn't going to cure it. It's not. It's clinical. It's got clinical backing in it, but it's not going to cure everything. It's just meant for you to have words from a practical standpoint of other people that have done it and it helped them. And this is how.
I love you said that, because that's how I learn. I'm just assuming a lot of people learn that way, which is learning from other people.
Yeah.
Their mistakes, their victories, their losses, their wins, and how they got through it, how God came in and transformed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what wrote our book. I mean, you know, we're not sitting here saying that, oh man, we got to figure it out. We've been doing this great for 23 years. You know?
Yeah.
No, man, we had some problems. We had some issues. We were about to get a divorce. You know, we had to have the miracle working power of the Lord to come in and take care of us and save us from those things, and open my eyes, open her eyes to what do I need to do here to change myself a little bit, to be the best person for my spouse. And, you know, so I think, you know, those type of platforms are tremendous for our military folks. That one would be, you know, great as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to do the same thing with Fort Gordon, Fort Eisenhower, in Augusta, Georgia. They have a hospital on the top floor, I think, is the detox wing.
No.
So I have a goal to get in there with them, but I know the military's always got something going on. So it's all about who you know too.
Yeah, it is.
That's another thing about starting the military ministry is those connections start happening. Those connections start coming, you know. And you got, like I said, you got a retired guy here that's maybe knows a guy that works up there, or knows he's got an in, you know. And
that's exactly right.
I'll tell you one thing: the connection within the military community is broad. You know,
it is.
Like a guy can walk in here that I've never seen before, and he was stationed somewhere that I was stationed. Automatically, we have a connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, and that happens so often in the military. And I think if you know, not trying to pitch this too hard to pastors out there, but you know, having a good, thriving military ministry, you know, it's going to open up those opportunities for the rest of your church, for the rest of your growth, because, you know, the opportunities are just going to continue to elevate themselves and grow, you know, just because, you know, there's such a need for it, in my opinion.
Well, and I think they're partnering with the solution, you know, because we talk so often about what the problem is. But let's talk about how we can become part of the solution. And it's very simple. They're very simple shifts. It's not looking at one another in a competitive light. It's looking at how can we collaborate with each other
together.
We all have the same heart. We want to see people thrive. You know, the three of us are sitting here in a Genesis 50-20 moment. What the enemy meant for evil, God is using for good. If he can do that for us, how many more people does he want to do that for?
That's good.
Our healing is now being realized in the purpose that God gave you for your ministry and that God has given us for this one. That's where it's evident. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not special.
Yeah, me neither.
You know, I'm just a girl, you know, so.
I love working with people that have the mindset of, hey, I might be the seed planter. You might be the guy that works with them for 6 months and gets them to recovery and gets them on track. Right. You might be the seed planter in a military marriage, and I might be the one that gives them this platform for a couple months, and their marriage gets healed by the Lord. You know, it's working together, you know, and I think that's another big key nowadays is the competitive thing needs to stop there, and let's work together with each other. And you have a specific skill set the Lord is using you for, you know. I'm going to push people to you for that, you know, because you're the guy they need to talk to.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to whoever that you have out there, whoever's listening to the podcast today. I'll say that if you do want to reach out to me direct, you can reach me at recoveryvow@gmail.com or any of our social media platforms. And if the listeners today want to reach out to you guys, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
valorandvows@gmail.com.
And social medias?
And social media, Valor and Vows on Facebook. We do have a YouTube channel, but the email that'll get right to our inbox.
Okay. Yeah. Did you bring a copy of the book with you by chance?
It's at the hotel.
I need it.
Sorry, everybody.
For my intro.
I can get it to you.
No, so I think I was supposed to have it here because I was going to hold it up, but it's okay.
Brett might have one upstairs.
He might.
I don't know.
I'm going to do the intro so we can flow out, okay? I do want to say real quick that I'm very thankful that you guys took the time to book a flight here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Fly to Southlake, Texas to hang out with me.
Well, hey,
I'm so thankful.
We're honored. We really are. We're so, and you know, when your book came out, I was so excited because I know that, you know, I thought, what did I think? I thought like, man, we're finally now starting to talk about some things in the church. We're finally really starting to just get real about what we're all going through. You know, the saying is hurt people, healed people, heal people.
That's good.
And so it's an honor for us to be here.
Yeah. Well, again, I can't thank you. And I look forward to us working together even more. I don't know for sure what that looks like or how big this door is we're about to walk through, but I do want to walk through it with you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Be honored.